There are pruning shears hanging in your garage, sap dried on the blades from whatever you cut last. And over the next 3 weeks, they can do two opposite things. On 7 plants, 20 minutes with them is the best work you'll do all month. On 7 others, one cut cost you every flower you were counting on in May. That's what makes August strange. The mistake never announces itself. Nothing wilts, nothing browns. The shrub looks healthy all winter. The bill arrives in May, when the yard down the street is in bloom, and yours is a tidy green nothing. One of these is different from the other 13. With that one, a wrong cut isn't a lost season. The wood never grows back, and if you've already done it, there's still something you can do about it. I'll come to that near the end. 14 plants, one verdict each. Cut now, or keep your hands in your pockets. One idea makes every decision today obvious, and once you have it, you won't need me again. Shrubs come in 2 camps, and the difference is when the flower gets built. Camp 1 flowers on old wood, the growth already standing in your yard. Those plants finish setting next year's buds within 6 or 8 weeks of their own bloom ending. So by August next May is already built. It's sitting in small dull buds along the stems, and you cannot see it. Camp 2 flowers on new wood, which the plant hasn't made yet. Those you cut in late winter. The short version, and it's the only sentence you have to keep. If it flowered in spring, next year's flowers are already on the plant. Number 14, Daylilies, cut. 10 minutes a clump, and the bed looks a class better through October. Every flower your daylilies open this summer is now trying to become a seed pod, and every pod draws on what the plant needs to build next year's crown. Not a disaster, daylilies are tough, but you're paying for seeds you have no use for. 2 different jobs here, and people run them together. The spent flowers you can do with your fingers, walking past. Pinch the shriveled bloom at its base and bend it down, and it snaps off cleanly. Do it while you're out there with your coffee. No tools, no bending down. The flower stalk is different. Once every bud on a stalk is opened and finished, that stalk is spent. Cut it right down at the base, close to the crown without cutting into the leaves. Don't yank it. A fully attached scape doesn't always release cleanly, and what tears when it goes is the crown you're trying to protect. Then pull the yellow and brown leaves. Grip low and pull steadily. The dead ones slide out, the live ones stay put. Don't shear the clump flat. Those green leaves are still feeding the roots, and a sheared daylily looks like a haircut nobody asked for. Number 13, Catmint, Salvia, and hardy geranium. Cut, but lightly and not everywhere. Now I have to correct something you'll hear on half the gardening channels this month, including advice I used to repeat myself. You'll be told to shear these back by 1/3 in August for a big second flush. That's a real technique, and it genuinely works in June. Cut catmint or salvia hard right after the first flush, and it rebuilds and blooms again properly. August is a different month with a different answer. By now, the plant is winding down, not gearing up. A hard shear this late gives you soft growth with nowhere to go, and in zone 6 and colder, that's exactly what winter kills, sometimes taking the crown with it. And that's a rule sitting underneath half of today's list, so let me say it once plainly. Stop hard pruning about 6 weeks before your average first frost. In Zone 4, that's the middle of August. In Zone 7, you've got until the end of September. Look your own date up once, and you'll never guess again. So here's the honest August version. Take the spent flower stems off and tidy the sprawl. Light maybe 1/4 of the plant, and you're removing flower stalks, not cutting into the leafy mound. What that buys is real, just smaller than advertised. A tidier plant, and on catmint and salvia, a scattering of fresh flowers into September. Hardy geranium responds least. If you're in Zone 8 or warmer, you have more room. Take 1/3. And look, if you've been shearing yours hard every August for 10 years and it comes back fine, keep doing it. You know your own garden better than I know it. I'm talking to Zone 6 and colder, and to anybody who's tried it once and watched the plant sulk. Quick word before number 12. For anybody who wants all of this written down, I put it together in a book at henrysgardensecrets.com. It's called The Low Maintenance Garden Blueprint. I won't bring it up again. If you want it, it's there. Now, number 12, Rambler and Climbing Roses. Cut. Careful here, because this applies to 2 kinds of rose and not the other 2. A rambler flowers once a year in one enormous show on wood that grew the previous summer. That show is over, which means everything it flowered on has already done its whole job. 3 moves. First, take out roughly 1 cane in 3, the oldest. You'll know them by the bark. thicker, duller, starting to shred, while this year's are smooth and green. Cut them at ground level or to a strong young shoot near the base. Skip this and an old Rambler turns into a tangle, flowering only on the outside. Second, on the canes you're keeping, shorten the flowered side shoots back to 2 or 3 buds, about 4 inches from the main stem. Third, and this changes the display more than anything else, take this year's long, flexible canes and tie them as close to horizontal as you can without cracking them. Along a fence rail spiraled around a post in a wide arc. A cane pointing straight up sends everything to the tip and gives you one cluster at the top where nobody's looking. Lay that same cane sideways and buds wake up along its entire length. Same plant, same year, several times the flowers. Not for hybrid teas and not for shrub roses. Those wait for late winter. 3 down, all of them jobs for this weekend. Let me ask you something before we go on. Have you ever cut something back and then spent the rest of the season quietly wondering whether you'd ruined it? Tell me what it was. Put your state next to it, because the answer changes by about 3 weeks between Zone 4 and Zone 8. I ask because I know the feeling of standing there holding the shears, halfway through, not sure. You're not the only one. Number 11, Bridal Wreath Spirea, hands off, the white one, arching stems that in May look like somebody threw a bucket of foam over the shrub. Spirea prunifolia, Spirea ex Van Houte, the old-fashioned one growing along 1,000 American driveways. This is where the list turns, so watch the shape of the argument. It repeats. Bridal wreath flowers on old wood. It finished blooming in May and spent June and July doing something you couldn't see, building next spring's buds along the stem standing there right now. Small, dull, tucked against the wood. Nothing about them announces itself. So when you go out in August with the shears and give it a nice round shape, and it is very tempting because by now it's shaggy, and leaning into the drive, you're cutting off next May. Every stem you shorten is flowers you've already grown and thrown away. The shrub will look great in September, tidy, deliberate. Then next May, it stands there green and empty, and you assume it's getting old. Allowed right now, anything dead. That's the whole list. The real window is a 2-week stretch immediately after it flowers, in June. Put it in the calendar now while you're annoyed about it. Number 10. Bee balm and garden phlox. Cut. Set the shrubs down for a minute, because this one is about 2 plants that are probably white right now. Go look at your bee balm and your tall garden phlox. If the leaves have gone dusty gray-white, like somebody threw flour at them, that's powdery mildew. And by mid-August, it's in most American gardens that grow either one. Here's why it matters beyond looking bad. The spores overwinter in that tissue, on the standing stems and on the leaves that drop underneath. Leave it up, and you're not just putting up with this year's mildew, you're planting next year's. So take it out now. Bee balm that's gone white gets cut to the ground, all of it, not a tidy trim. It's finished flowering anyway, and it'll push clean low foliage before frost. On phlox, take the worst stems out at the base and leave the healthy ones standing. Clean shears and everything you cut goes in the trash, not the compost heap. Those spores come through a compost pile perfectly happy. Now, 3 plants ago, I told you not to shear catmint hard this month, and this sounds like the opposite. It isn't. That was a healthy plant, and you'd have been cutting it for looks. This is diseased tissue, and leaving it cost you next July. The long fix is air. Space them wider next time you divide, and when you replace one, buy what's bred for it. Gina and David Phlox both shrug mildew off. Number 9, lavender. Cut, but only into green. Lavender needs a cut this month, and it needs the right one. Under that silver foliage, lavender builds a woody frame at the base, and unlike almost every other shrub in your yard, that old wood carries almost no dormant buds. Look closely, and you can see the line. Soft, silvery, flexible growth on top. Bare, stiff gray wood underneath. Everything you do is above that line. Take the spent flower stems and about 1/3 of this year's soft growth with them, shaping the plant into a low dome rather than a flat table. The dome isn't decoration. A flat top collects rain and snowmelt in the middle of the crown and holds it. A rounded one sheds it off the sides, and lavender is killed by winter wet far more often than by winter cold. Now, the rule that beats all of that: never cut into the bare gray wood. If you're squinting at a stem trying to decide whether there's still green on it, that hesitation is your answer. Cut higher. Get it done by the end of August. A neighbor of mine had a lavender by her front step for 11 years, big silver dome, the kind people slow down for. One September she decided it had gone leggy and took the hedge shears to it. Straight across the top, level, the way you do a boxwood, 4 inches off. It looked wonderful for a week. It never came back, not a leaf. By the following June, she was scraping bark with a fingernail, looking for green, and there wasn't any. She hadn't been careless. She'd been tidy. That's the trouble with this plant. It punishes the exact instinct that keeps the rest of the garden looking good. Has a plant ever died on you, and you never worked out why? Tell me what it was. There's a decent chance somebody in the comments knows, and there's a decent chance it's on this list. Number 8, Azalea and Rhododendron. Hands off. This one you can verify with your own eyes in about 10 seconds, and I want you to go do it after the video. Walk out to your azalea or rhododendron and look at the branch tips, 2 kinds of bud. Most are small, narrow, and pointed. Those are leaves. Scattered among them on the strongest shoots are buds noticeably fatter and blunter. Those are next spring's flowers, already made, sitting there since midsummer. So this one isn't a rule you have to take from me. It's a thing you can walk out and confirm before you touch the plant. Every branch tip you shorten now is a dozen flowers in the wheelbarrow. And it's cruel because azaleas keep their leaves. The plant looks fine all winter. You find out in April, when the neighbors are covered and yours has a handful. Allowed now, dead wood. If it genuinely needs shaping, that's a June job, finished before the middle of the month. Number 7, Forsythia, hands off. I'll be straight about this one, because I've said hard things about Forsythia before. I've told you I wouldn't plant another one, and I stand by that. But most of you already have one, and there's a difference between not buying a plant and wrecking the one you've got. Same mechanism as the spirea, and next April is already sitting on the branches. Forsythia gets sheared in August more than almost anything else in the American yard, because by now it's a shaggy 10-foot fountain leaning over the walk, and it looks like it's asking for it. So people round it off, feel good about the tidy result, and then in April it flowers in patches and they assume the shrub is tired. It isn't tired. The flowers were on the parts that got cut off, and a ball is the wrong shape anyway, a dense shell of twigs with a hollow, dead middle. The right cut is April or May, within 2 weeks of the flowers fading, and it isn't a trim. Take the oldest, thickest canes out at ground level, 1/3 of them, and leave the rest alone. Number 6, formal hedges, cut last one of the year. Yew, hornbeam, beech, arborvitae. Anything you keep as a clipped shape, a break from the prohibitions, and this one has a deadline on it. This is the last cut of the season. Trim now, and the soft growth it triggers has 6 or 8 warm weeks to firm up before the cold. Trim in late September, and that same growth is still soft when the first hard night comes. It browns off across the whole face of the hedge, and you look at that all winter. Now the part that separates a professional-looking hedge from a homemade one. Cut it so the top is narrower than the bottom, a slight taper, wider at the base by a few inches each side. Light has to reach the lower branches, straight sides, or worse, wider at the top, and the bottom sits in its own shade. Within 3 years, the base goes bare, and a hedge that's gone bare at the bottom does not fill back in. Permanent, from a temporary habit. Number 5, Oakleaf hydrangea, hands off, the one with big lobed leaves like an oak, white cones in June, and peeling cinnamon bark. Old wood, buds already set. You know the argument by now, so I'll spend the time on the part people don't consider. Everything you'd be cutting off is the winter garden. The cones dry to a papery pink-brown and hold through January. The leaves go deep burgundy in October and stay on longer than anything else in the bed. And that cinnamon bark peels off the older stems, which you only get because the plant was left alone long enough to have older stems. Cut it back now, and you get none of it. A tidy green mound, no fall color, no cones, no bark, no flowers, next June. 4 seasons traded for 1 afternoon of neatness. Allowed now, dead wood. If it's outgrown its spot, the fix isn't shearing. It's taking 2 or 3 of the oldest stems out at the base right after it flowers in early summer. Number 4, Wisteria, cut and precisely. If you own a wisteria that grows like it's being paid to and flowers like it's doing you a favor, this section is the reason. The single most common wisteria complaint in America is a plant that puts on 15 feet of growth a year and gives you 4 flowers. Almost always, the cause is the same. nobody ever does the summer prune. A wisteria, left alone, pours everything into long, whippy green shoots. The ones running along your gutter and reaching for the roof. Rope, that's all that is. And as long as the plant can keep making rope, it has no reason to make flowers. So you take that option away. Find this year's whippy shoots. They're obvious, long, green, soft, waving around. Cut each one back to 5 or 6 leaves from where it joins the older woody stem. Count them, don't estimate. That's it. It looks brutal, and the plant does not care. The push that was going into length gets sent instead into short, stubby side twigs, and those twigs are where wisteria flowers are made. Light also gets down onto the older wood, which firms it up and sets more buds. Then in winter, with the leaves off and the shape visible, you go back and shorten those same stubs again down to 2 or 3 buds. 2 cuts a year, and that's a wisteria that flowers. Skip the August cut and you get another year of green rope. Subscribe, and these keep showing up, new one every couple of days, and they follow the calendar, so the September jobs will land while there's still time to do them. 3 left, and they're the 3 that cost the most. Number 1 is the one people wreck without ever knowing they did it. Number 3, peony, hands off. Look at your peonies right now. Big, green, leafy, and completely finished flowering, which makes them look like the most obviously done plant in the garden. They are not done. They're at work. Those leaves have one job for the rest of the season, and it's to load sugars into the thick storage roots underneath. That is where next May's flowers come from. Peonies don't build buds on stems the way the shrubs on this list do. They bank fuel underground and spend it in spring. Cut the green foliage off in August, and you're withdrawing from an account before the deposit clears. Extension services put it plainly. Peonies cut back in August or early September tend to carry fewer flowers the following year than the same plants left standing. So the timing is later than most people think, and later than I used to say. You wait for frost. The foliage yellows, collapses, and once it's been killed by a hard freeze, you cut everything to about 1 inch above the ground. In most of the country, that's mid-October into November, not the end of August. 2 things you should do now. Snip off any seed pods. A peony will happily pour energy into seeds you don't want. And pick off any leaf showing brown or gray blotches, because the disease overwinters in that tissue. Both go in the trash, not the compost pile. Number 2, Bigleaf hydrangea. Hands off, the blue and pink mop heads and the flat lace caps. If one thing in this video fixes a real problem in a real yard, it's this. The single most common gardening complaint in America goes like this: healthy shrub, beautiful green leaves, growing well, and not one flower, 3rd year running. That's this plant, and it's usually this mistake. A woman wrote to me last spring with a photograph of a hydrangea against a white garage wall. Waist high, glossy, not a mark on a leaf. No flowers. 4th summer running. She'd fed it, moved it, tested the soil. Her husband had started calling it the shrub. Then she mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that every fall she cuts it back so it looks neat under the snow. That was the answer, and it had been the answer for 4 years. She wasn't neglecting that plant. She was cutting off the following June, every October, on purpose. Big leaf hydrangea flowers on old wood, and it sets those buds right now, this month, while you're reading the shrub as finished for the year. Every stem in your border today is carrying next summer inside it. Cut a stem, lose its flowers. What you're allowed is narrower than people assume. You can take off a browned flower head, follow that stem down to the first pair of plump buds sitting opposite each other, and cut just above them. Not an inch lower. Those 2 buds are the flowers. And here's the exception you need to hear out loud, because it's why this is so confusing. Panicle and smooth hydrangeas are the opposite. Limelight, Little Lime, Bobo, Annabelle, Incredible. Those flower on growth the plant hasn't made yet. Cut in late winter, and they'll forgive you either way. Same word on the label, opposite rule. If you don't know which you own, do nothing this year and watch where it flowers next summer. Before number 1, the rescue I promised you at the start. It was the lavender. Everything else on this list cost you a season. That one cost you the wood, and the wood doesn't come back. So here's the part nobody tells you: what to do if you've already done it. If there's a dead gray section on your plant right now, go look at what's left. Green anywhere on it means that side is still alive and will keep going for years. You lost a piece, not the plant. Then do this before the month is out. Take 4 or 5 cuttings off the green side shoots 3 inches from a stem that isn't flowering. Strip the lower leaves. Push them into gritty compost. Late summer is the best window of the whole year for lavender, and in 6 to 10 weeks, you've got rooted plants. You can't repair a lavender. You can replace it for nothing, starting this weekend, instead of paying for one next May. Which brings us to number 1. And number 1 isn't the plant that does permanent damage. It's the plant that gets ruined more often than any other shrub in this country. Number 1, lilac. Hands off, and it's ruined with the best intentions every time. Lilac sets next year's buds fast. Within weeks of the flowers browning off in May, it's done. All of next spring is built and standing on the shrub by the end of June. So by August, there is no version of cutting a lilac that isn't cutting off flowers. Shape it, reduce it, take a foot off the top because it leans at the window. Same thing. You're removing next May, one stem at a time, and it will look perfectly healthy while you do it. Allowed today, dead wood and the suckers out in the lawn. Nothing else. Write this down for spring, 4 weeks after it finishes flowering. Miss that, and you wait a year. Screenshot this one. It's the whole video on a page. Cut now. Daylilies, Catmint and its relatives, Rambler roses, bee balm and phlox, lavender, hedges, wisteria. Hands off. Bridal wreath spirea, azaleas and rhododendrons, Forsythia, Oakleaf hydrangea, Peony, Bigleaf hydrangea, lilac. Half this list was me telling you to put the shears down. That's what August is, a month that pays better for restraint than for effort, which is uncomfortable because a full bucket of clippings feels like a day's work. Tell me your zone and which of the 14 you've got. The garden doesn't settle up in August, it settles up in May.